I'm going to talk about the cartoons, the anti-Italian cartoons that I assigned for today for the next lecture. They were published in American publications between the 1880 and the 1910-1920. This is the period of the largest mass migration of Italians to this country. Here we are going, I want to focus your attention on a few of them, and I'm going to explain in better detail what they represent, and also the method that you should use in analyzing these materials, these historical materials. So you have to think about the sensibility of the people who were reading these newspapers and the information that we're gathering from the cartoons. Remember, no TV, no radio, forget about the internet. The only media available was the printed media. Therefore, any sort of information was mediated, was filtered through some institutions that would reach a larger public. And that is very important. What they knew, what the people knew at the time, and who conveyed the information to them. And here we go with the first cartoon. The first cartoon I want to bring your attention to is the one published in 1888, very early, in The Mascot, a rather popular publication in New Orleans. The issue is regarding the Italian population. And here we are seeing them represented in 5 different moments, 5 vignettes. Here, barefoot, sleeping, hanging out in an apartment, a woman with a child in her arms, loafers, basically living almost with showing no dignity whatsoever. The second one, these are men crowded like animals in a small room, again asleep, loafers, doing nothing. Here is the afternoon's pleasant diversion. Here we see them, this is a gang of men with knives. One of them, I think here, has a bottle of wine, so he's a bum, an alcoholic, and they are attacking a passerby. This is a mugging. These are the very first 3 images, representation of Italians in New Orleans. So, what's the best way to handle these people? Well, you grab them from the street, you drag them, you beat them up with billy clubs, and you throw them into paddy wagons. Paddy wagon, by the way, is a term that apparently was invented in New York City. Paddy, it's not because the wagons were padded to make it more comfortable for the people who were arrested. Rather, it referred to the common practice of rounding up drunk people in the streets, and since it was notorious, of course, that the only drunk people were Irish, and Paddy is a very common Irish name, or at least it was back then the wagons were used to carry away the paddies. There is the name. That's one of the origins of the name. This is at least what the philologists claim. Okay, but let's go back to our point. Then this is the real way of getting rid of Italians. The way to dispose of them. You put them in a cage and you drown them in the river. This is what to this very day is done to rat infestations anywhere in the world. When you have infestations of rats or other feral animals, the best way to deal with them is not to shoot them, too messy, is not to chop them up with machetes, it's not to bludgeon them to death. Again, it's too messy. The The best way is to capture them, put them in a trap, and drown them. This is the proposed final solution for Italians. We're going to move on to the next in a couple of seconds. Here we have another cartoon. Let me blow it up. The text underneath says a wop, a pound of spaghetti, and a red bandana, a stiletto and a corduroy suit, a garlic what make for him stronger the must, and a talent for blacker the boots. Here is the representation of an Italian, a shoeshine, which was at the time one of the lowest possible professions, activities. Here we have someone who, by all definitions, does not look like a human. This is an ape. We see the facial characteristics of an ape. I don't need to give you the details. So this is the representation of an Italian. We see the typical features, such as the corduroy pants, as I said, this bandana around the neck. We have presumably a bottle of wine here, and what strikes us as particularly offensive, insulting, is the fact that this is an ape. This is not a human. It's a beast. It just came down from the trees. It is the comparison is with this individual, looks like the trust fund kid, a dandy, rich, probably spoiled, a debonair with elegant, what do you call it, like foulard, a high collar. So high fashion, dressed in high fashion for the time, but also kind of a hip fashion, cigarette holder, holding a cigarette. And the important aspect that we see is looking down, almost in a state of amazement and disbelief at this semi-human creature. As I wrote as a comment to this image, the Italian represented here, I have to go back. Right. I'm going to take it back here. Italians at the time were not considered white. They were not considered black either. They were the missing link between the two groups. They were categorized as belonging to a third and different race. A large number of Italians were hired and imported, literally, to replace the newly or recently emancipated and liberated slaves from southern plantations, from the agricultural industry. And a lot of them were replacement workers for slaves. And they were not considered fully, as I said, they were not considered white. Here we are dealing with a clearly political message. Look at the combination of the elements. Directly from the slums of Europe, you have all sorts of rats coming to the American shores. You know who this guy is. And look at the characterization, the most the clearest characterization of some of these people. Here we have mafia, here we have anarchy, mafia again with the Italian flag, green, white, and red, and then here we have socialists. What do they carry in their mouth, between their teeth? swords, knives, stilettos. This one carries a gun. Not all of them are clearly identifiable as Italian. I think this, for instance, could be Russian. This one is an Italian flag. So the message is very clear. There is an infestation taking place. These people are carrying their social diseases with them. They are bringing the danger, the political danger of socialism and anarchy, in addition to the criminal element, which is mafia. Who is this person? This is President McKinley. President McKinley was one of the very few politicians at the time who was in favor of open immigration. He was encouraging and sustaining legislature that made immigration easier. Paradoxically, or maybe ironically, he was assassinated, killed by a Polish immigrant, an anarchist Polish immigrant. I've never been able to determine the meaning of this particular hand sign. I know it must mean something. It must mean the brotherhood, belonging to some brotherhood, some group, some secret society, something like that. But I have not been able to identify its meaning. Maybe one of these days I will encounter someone who has knowledge about these things. So McKinley, again, paradoxically, the president who supported immigration, killed by an immigrant, which is both a reminder of the consequences of immigration and at the same time a denunciation of the practice of open immigration. Very quickly here, the Black Hand, Uncle Sam is asleep. Very quickly, Uncle Sam, in the guise of a policeman, you see the Billy Club here, is asleep, while the Black Hand, which means death, is committing its murders. Black Hand really never existed. It's the phantomatic name of small organized crime at the local level. Every community has some kind of low-level organized crime. We may call them gangs or whatever you want. They are the people who extort the little businesses, who run the illegal activities such as smuggling goods and drugs, that kind of stuff. There are defenses when there are robberies, people who can mediate between the thieves and the purchasers. Every community has this kind of entity. For some reason, the Italian community was labeled as highly criminal, and there was this invention that there was an organization called the Black Hand. Any sort of organized, minimally level organized crime, gangs or whatever, when it came to Italian, was named the Black Hand. I'll go forward. I don't know. Yeah. Same sort of thing. Here, this is a thief with a big loot, has a box with a Black Hand and the American taxpayer complaining to Uncle Sam, why don't you tax him? I cannot read the markings on, and I cannot identify what these objects are, but I'm sure that if we could get the original, we would be able to see additional signals, not signals, but there'll be additional symbols or explanations. Let's see, where are you going? Okay. WAP, the guy hangs out on street corners and while the other people go to work. And here is an explanation of the meaning of the word WAP. Italians were organ grinders. That was one of their professions. Here, this person is represented with a black face even. The sound is so unbearable that even dogs bark and howl in the street. Here is the child, clearly associated with the organ grinder. Again, another image of organ grinders that have invaded. This is a lice. This is, okay. I'm not sure this is clearly understandable outside of a context. Anyway, again, two organ grinders with the monkeys that are chatting around. Here is a true representation of an event where Italian leadership this is actually not a cartoon, it's a representation of a true event. New York City issued a ban against organ grinders, and here is a group of these people with a representative arguing with officials against the ban, trying to revoke the ban against organ grinders. All Italian, of course. Not very clear, unfortunately. This represents a woman or two women with children begging. My interpretation is that these people are leaving a church. They're coming down from a church. They're well dressed. It's not a family. It's a group of different people. This is a very well-dressed child, so it would indicate Sunday morning, and the caption, "New country, old jobs," the Italians begging. Purely gratuitous. This guy is a blade sharpener. And the caption says, "Sharpening the stiletto of one of the New Orleans assassins." Why? I don't know. It makes absolutely no sense. It simply represents an Italian. It represents somebody working. Stiletto is a very thin knife. It is the kind of weapon that you can easily conceal, and it is associated with stabbing people in the back. So it is not a manly weapon of defense or attack. It is sneaky. It's something that you hide And again, it is associated with Italians. The word is in Italian, indeed. That is where the strongest association is from. Now, even more gratuitous. This guy is a broom maker, corn broom maker. For whatever reason, becomes a cobbler. Cobbler means a shoemaker or shoe repair person. And this is how messages are conceived. This is how messages are. This is how propaganda works. This becomes a mafioso cobbler. A mafioso. Why? There is nothing that associates him with mafia, but in the caption, it becomes a mafioso cobbler. Again, he is not a cobbler, but there you go. And finally, this one, we have two separate moments. Here are the immigrants at their arrival. They don't have anything, penniless. And people are looking at them, says, more and more of them are coming. How are they going to survive? And the answer is, well, they don't live like us. And in fact, a couple of years later, here are the same gentlemen, the establishment, that manifest their absolute stunned reaction at seeing these same people now driving a fancy car with all sort of gaudy bling hanging from around their necks or on their hats. Yes, this is clearly implying that they're doing something sordid or illegal in order to go from here to here in a couple of years. And that's it. Oh, no, here is another one. This would have been a pair with the previous that represented Uncle Sam and the rats. Here is the Statue of Liberty. Oops, let me go back 1 second. Here is, okay. This is similar to the previous one we saw, the other color cartoon. Here is the Statue of Liberty. Here is the Pied Piper and the exultant, triumphant European aristocracy that is getting rid of the scum, again, from the slums of Europe, coming out of jail, coming out of sewers. They are being led to America, and most indicative, this one here has a paper, and like this one and this one, that say Black Hand. I don't see, I can't really read the other captions, but they must be along the same lines. And I think this must be the last one. Yes, it is. Okay. Stop.